Okay, odds and ends today. This generator hasn't run properly continuously for like years, so I'm going to try and fix it. I read the codes, 3.2 or something, 3.3. Okay, odds and ends today. This generator hasn't run properly continuously for like years, so I'm going to try and fix it. I read the codes, 3.2 or something, 3.3. It's just overheating, but it's not because it just starts up. So I bought a whole load of goodies for it. I bought them beforehand so I could kill the problem. So I got 3 glow plugs, temp sensor, thermostat, gasket, a whole load of other stuff. Even bought a fuel pump. I basically am going to kill the problem. I don't have time to be troubleshooting, so I think it's good insurance. And what I'm doing now is I'm taking these little bolts out here to try and get the cover off. This was serviced, oil change and stuff in 2017, but it's done 0 hours since then because it doesn't continuously fire. And I think it's one of the problems I mentioned. It could be probably the temp sensor, could be the fuel pump. Got a new fuel filter, so we shall see. Some of these RVs, this is mounted in the front. This whole unit is mounted in the front, and it's a pain because you've got to jack it and pull it out. On this, it's not, access isn't too bad, but the worst thing is getting to the bolts at the back. Once those are out, I think we should be good. So there you go. Nice little Independence Day piece. Okay, I wasn't being able to get the top off, but I got the front cover off just to have a quick butcher's, have a look. Just curious. Hey guys, so as we talk about the generator and working on it, we have the general layout. If you could look on the screen now, you should see a schematic I found of a general layout of the generator. You can see the governor section here. There's basically a big fan, cools it, ECU, inverter, all as a unit here, and the fuel pump is here, and then there's a there's the oil filter. So I fished that out online. It's always handy to have that and then reference the real thing. I did, story for another time, I may or may not go into this, I did rebuild the governor, or kind of take the governor apart, because I had another problem with the generator. The generator is a lifeline. The generator is a lifeline on these buses and on campers. And solar, you can have solar up the yin yang. I later on, a year from when this video was taken, I had 1,000 watts, and it's not you can have an off day, you can have clouds, and you're screwed. So the generator really should be the mainstay, unless you've got so much wattage, like 3,000 or plus, which I don't have. So I had another issue with the generator, and it ended up being something minor, but I started taking the governor apart, as you can see in these pictures. So but that's a story for another time if I even go into it. That ended up being a fuel filter issue, but I will talk about that later. Generator ran for a bit. I always test the AC because the AC is up to 2000 watts, if not a bit more at the beginning of draw. So usually generators are sized for the AC units that you have on a vehicle, on a bus or on an RV. And I've got two, and 7500 watts is about right. So I usually load them up by running the AC, and it did run for a while, and it didn't last. And what it was, second time around, as you'll find out, was the fuel pump. And you'll see I talk about that. And then I did touch upon this. I changed the upstream. Okay, there's one fuel filter. There's one main fuel filter, and that's inside the machine with the front cover off. You can see it. Fuel goes in and it comes out and goes into the fuel distributor. But the problems I had was moss and mold was getting sucked in, and the first line, there was no first line of defense. It was going straight to the pump. So the pump is actually upstream of the main filter. And what I found out was a properly installed Onan has an upstream filter. So I ended up using a hot rod filter, which filters to 100 microns. I liked it because it was clear that you could see through it. And then when I had issues a year later, when I took the governor apart, which was all a big waste of time, I found out that the hot rod filter, which served me well, was actually leaking and sucking in air. And it was the sucking in of air that was actually causing issues, because these things are very sensitive to that. Any bubbles or any air will mean the generator won't start. So I put in the Onan approved one, which is not, it is kind of necessary or not. That does actually filter to 30 microns and it doesn't leak. So I don't even know how often you're supposed to change it. You can look that up, and I'm sure someone can write in the comments. But yeah, and that was a year later. Otherwise, the generator's been pretty good. Yeah, so that pretty much is it. And yeah, that's the saga of my generator. Hey guys, so I changed about everything else on this. So the glow plugs, I don't even know if I had to. The thermostat, the gasket, the fuel filter, which is over there, if you can see it, and everything else. And it ran for a bit, and now it's no longer running. The only thing left is the fuel pump. The fuel pump is there, but to get to it, there's screws underneath. Now, unlike a Newmar or some sticks and staples RV, this is being kind of custom, so there isn't a platform which this slides out on, this generator. So the only choice you have is to jack this thing up and get underneath it and get to the screws, which I can get, I think now. I use the jack, but I've also used these wooden blocks, just like a car. I don't want to get this thing landing on my fingers, so this will stop it. So tomorrow, when there's some daylight, I'm going to try and take this cover thing off. See, there's the oil filter. I'm going to take this cover off, and that should give me access to the fuel filter. So I'll just change it. Not fuel filter, fuel pump. So cool. Hey guys, so this is interesting. I got the old pump out along with the clamp. You may be able to see the clamp there. The old pump is almost out. There's the new pump. And on the old pump, there's this fitting, which will be transferred into the new pump. Let's get a focus here. And I found a load of gunk, or it looks like organic moss or something. Let's see if we can focus on this. So there's some kind of a moss growing in there. So it's kind of clogging things up. The reason I'm attuned to this is when I was filling up. Now let me go to the tank. I was filling up the other day on this old bus, and I found it looks like salts, but it wouldn't be salts. It's something growing in there. So I'm going to have to do something about that, because I think that's where it came from. This generator draws from the main diesel tank. So I'll put something in there to try and stop this mossy shit. But I mean, the pump may be okay, but after all this shenanigans, I'm going to put the new pump in anyway. So, and I need to clean that little fixture up. So interesting. Yeah, there's another view of the actual pump, and you can see there's some shit in there. It looks like some kind of moldy stuff growing. So obviously come from the tank, because this don't forget, this thing was running for like an hour or so. So very strange. Maybe it was at the very bottom of the tank, because it's filled up now. So interesting to see. If I had the time and energy, I would just re-clean this and put it back. But you know what? I'm not doing all this again. I'm going to put the new pump. I've got the new pump. So okay, guys. So the filter, I used an upstream filter, as well as there's already one inside there that I showed you. But the filter here, the one I use is an Onan one. Now originally I used a different one. It was a Clearview hot rod filter that only filtered at 100 microns. This is a Onan one. It doesn't have to be an Onan one, but the main thing is how it fits, leakage, and then the level of filtration. Maybe 5 microns is pretty good. So I had the old hot rod Clearview one served me pretty well, but then it started to leak, and it was more of a petrol gasoline filter, and then it started to leak, and I had air leaks, and the thing wouldn't start. So just a little lesson. Upstream filter versus the one that's in there, I think they're both needed, as I learned with my mold incident. Live fast, live well, live free. Thank you.